cute. You looking good.
Oh, you can't even see me. Hush. That's what's up. That is what's up. All right.
Let me move a little bit.
Yes. Okay. How about that? What's up, everybody? Hey, Black Women Matter. You see it on my face. You hear it in my. This is your girl Charlene. Black Women Matter with community conversations in our city of Charlotte. This is who it is. And today in the studio, we have none other than Rodney Moore. Rodney Moore has actually served the state representatives of District 99 for 4 terms, 4 big terms, people. And guess what? He's in the studio with us today. We're getting ready to talk about some things that are very important right now. November is coming up, and we have to be on our P's and Q's. We have to be ready for everything that is coming our way. Do you hear me? Everything is coming our way. It is important. It's imperative that we get out the vote. We have to be able to push everyone that we can. This is so important. You remember how we voted for Obama back in
2008 and
2012. Just how out for Obama. It is so important that we triple the amount of people getting out to vote this election, 2020. You're reading the news, you're listening to the news, you're seeing the social media, you're seeing everything that's going on with our people, our community. So it's time for us to put down the information that we need. Now, it's been told to me that it's important that we talk about previously incarceration and the rights to vote. So I had my chair of the African American Caucus Democratic Party that was going to be on with us tonight, but she had she had an engagement that came up, and I was so thankful to have Mr. Rodney Moore to fill in with us. So he's here with us, but it's important that we talk about voter education. We talk about the rights to vote. And Rodney is going to help us kind of, tear some things, pick some things apart so that we know we can do it just like a 5th grader. Because I'm telling Rodney, sir, I don't know anything about none of this, right? So I need to know, what are my rights? How can I get involved? So we're going to pick this thing out. But right now, I'm going to let him introduce himself. And, of course, he has on his mask, so he's going to project his voice, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk to the people.
Well, first of all, Charlene, I truly appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come in and just talk for a couple of minutes about something that I've always loved all my life, and that's the power of the vote, especially as it relates to the African American community, and especially in this particular day and time with the climate that we find ourselves under. It's very important. A little bit about me. Of course, you mentioned that I was a state representative for House District 99.
House District 99. Now, I need him to break that down, because a lot of us know that it's districts. A lot of districts, we really know about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Right? Something like that.
Well, now that's I got you. But now that's a city council district. Now, when you look at it, when you go out a little bit, you look at it statewide, you have 120 House districts, which comprise of about 75 to 80,000 voters in each House district. Then you have your state Senate districts, which, if you could just look at it, it's double that amount of citizens in a state Senate district. So you're talking about 140, 150,000 people.
Wow.
And so there's 120 districts for the state House representatives across the entire North Carolina, and there's 50 state Senate districts. So.
Wow, that is a lot. Y'all already know. You hear that, right? That's so much to even break down right there.
Right.
But we're gonna reel it back into kind of local, if you have it.
Yeah.
So with local affiliates and districts, can you talk to me about what is our local?
Your local makeup.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in Charlotte, you have seven city council districts.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you also have 4 members of the city council is what we call the at-large members, and the at-large members are voted on from every citizen in the city of Charlotte. So they're not in districts, but they're a part of the city council.
Okay.
So that makes up 11 members of the city council. You have 7 district representatives, and then you have 4 at-large representatives or city council people. Then the mayor, of course, makes the 12th member.
Okay.
And so that's the breakdown. But on this ballot here, you have the county commission.
Yes. So
Right.
talk to us about the odd numbers and even numbers of the county and the city.
Right. Well, with the county, you have 6 districts that are specifically represented by 6 district county commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
And then there again, you have the at-large dynamic where they're voted on from across Mecklenburg County. And so you have 3 of those. So that's a 9-member board.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's who is on the ballot this year, are the city or the county commission members. Also, you have the General Assembly.
Yes.
The General Assembly.
Yes, you do. Just a little something, right?
Little teaser thing.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Talk to them.
And as I said before, you have 120 House members or state representatives. You have 50 state senators. I kind of lost the number as far as the number of members in Mecklenburg County delegation, but I can say it's one of the biggest delegations in the state capital, simply because we have the most populous city and county in North Carolina, so that gives us more representatives. I think we have something like 11, or maybe 9 or 10, maybe 11 reps, and we have about 3 or 4 state senators.
Whew, that is a lot.
That's a very big,
a
very big delegation.
It really is. That is a lot.
Right.
Now I know a lot of people have also talked to me and asked me about who to vote for. Now, I can't tell you who to vote for, but we can do recommendations. But it's up to you to do your own homework. Now, we can help guide you, but it's important that you do your own homework.
Absolutely.
Now, I know that the African American Caucus has a blue ballot.
Yes.
You see that, right?
Right.
So we've done a lot of due diligence when it comes down to even thinking about who we would want to endorse. So this is our endorsement year, the African American Caucus. And so we've come up with a lot of, and it's a lot, y'all. It's so much. But if you need this, all you have to do is go to the African American Caucus's website, which is, I should have wrote it down, my goodness. It's aacofmec.org. Go to aacofmec.org, and you will get this information. Can't tell you who to vote for, do your homework, but we've done some of the homework for you. So here you go, aacofmec.org. All right, I just want to get this out there.
And let me say quickly, Charlene.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you can't tell people who to vote for.
That's
but
right.
As you said, you can recommend, do your research, and I would just say simply that research the candidate and look at how their values, how their priorities, line up with your values and priorities.
Say that again.
Look at how their values and priorities line up with your values and priorities. And then you can make an educated decision about who's going to be the best person for you.
That's right.
To send to represent them in whatever representative body, whether it's the county commission or Raleigh in the House or the Senate or in Congress. Or, of course, we have the big election with the U.S. Senate, the governorship, lieutenant governor, and of course, we have a presidential election this year. Please.
Y'all see the signs.
Listen to me. Please go out and vote for the person you feel is going to be best to lead this country for the next 4 years. And the only thing you have to do is just look at the two contestants and then vote your value system now.
So let me say this.
I'm be done with that.
No, but seriously, out of all of that we have seen, with the commercials, with people going back and forth at each other,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of corruption that it seems is going on behind the scenes. Because at the end of the day, when I see a commercial and I see how they're attacking their opponent,
Mm-hmm.
and then how their opponent is attacking them,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's just like it's a lot of what's going on.
Right.
And the other one saying, what's going on. So somebody is throwing shade. Now, some
Right.
of it has reality to it,
Yeah, no doubt.
And then we say, well, these are two or some of the lesser evils. Right. How do you pick? How do you say, well, again, you said if it lines up with our values,
your priorities.
I get that. But at the end of the day, do you feel like they really represent us?
Well, the thing is that once you give your vote to them and they achieve their goal of being in office, then you have to be a very, very educated voter and educated constituent, and you have to go and hold them accountable.
Thank you. So that word accountable.
Okay.
That's it.
Accountability. You have to have accountability because, I'll give you a prime example. There's some commercials out about this young man who takes credit for things that other people have already achieved. And
that's the 48 laws of power. Let somebody else do the work and you take all the credit.
Right. Well, we know better than that. So those things you really have to work through the minutia. And a lot of times when you said you go through these personal attacks or this one talking about this one, you never get a sense of what that person is going to do for you as being a representative or a senator or a city councilman or county commissioner, because they're so involved with the minutia that you really never get to ask them the core questions. Well, how do you feel about this? Well, how would you handle this? What are you going to do from your promises? What type of promises are you going to make and that you're going to be able to keep realistically? Because, politicians always make promises to get elected.
Yes.
But they have to understand that it's okay if you can't fulfill a promise, but at the same time, you have to be honest with the people and let them understand what you're doing or what you want to achieve.
That's right.
Instead of beating each other up.
That's right. That's right. So Mr. Rodney has said that word accountability. We have to be able to hold our city officials, our county officials, our House representatives, state representatives, Congress, Senate, President, all of those entities accountable. Now, how do we hold them accountable?
You hold them accountable by monitoring what they do, have constant monitoring of what they do. If there's something that you as a constituent have a concern about, then you need to articulate that to your representative or senator or whatever, and you need to see how they respond. And if they respond in a positive way, then you know that they're accountable and they're looking out for their needs. But if they're not responsive or having a haughty spirit, so to speak, because they feel like they've arrived and they have this big shot mentality.
And we see a lot. I promise you, we see a lot of that going on. That mentality of I have arrived, you can't touch me. I am the Ishnik,
Right, Ishnik. I like that. I like that.
And that cannot happen. And that shows you the power that we can have. We are able to, if we unify, and I say this all the time, for those who know me, I always speak unity and love. If we unify, if we unite, and we become one, we can overturn a lot. Just look at history. All because people have died, they have bled, they've been, killed and abused for the right for us, And then I say, like, what's my young girl on radio stations, Eve, she says, if our vote doesn't count, why are they trying so hard to suppress it.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You got to remember that if it doesn't count, why are they throwing all of these tactics in place for us just so that we'll just give up? But we're resilient. We have a lot of toughness in us, and we do not stand just for somebody telling us no. We got to figure it out. We're going to continue to push past it and make our voice heard. And that's through the power of your vote. And so the second half of this, we're going to get into those who have been previously incarcerated, those who have thought that they have lost their power to vote. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But right now, and I know that a lot of us have received a lot of stuff in the mail. I mean, I brought a lot of stuff in my hand today, y'all. And again, we're going to talk about this stuff like we're fifth graders and do not understand it. You have to know what you're looking at and what you're doing with any of this paper that's in my hand that came to your mailbox. We want to make sure that you get the information just like a fifth grader so that you can understand it. Don't be fooled just because you see Michelle Obama's face on this mail. When you open it up, it's something in here that's confusing. So we're going to go through that. So when you get this in your mail, don't be confused. We're going to open it up and we're going to go through that. It's when you go to the Board of Election, they even did. Now, this is a good thing. This is the cool thing. They even did this for you so that you can be more secure in your votes. They actually put the information inside their own envelope, and all you have to do is fill it out and put a stamp on it, put it in the mailbox, or you can take it to the Board of Education. And then this little doohickey here, we're going to talk about this right here too. Y'all see that? Boom. Y'all see that? That's an important piece of information. Okay. It's a lot to decipher, but we're going to try to get through it. And let's talk about eligibility requirements for those who are 17, getting ready to be 18, or who are 18. What are the requirements?
Well, if you are 17, 6 months, I believe, before the election comes up, or you're going to be 18 during that time, you can register to vote and then vote in that election. You don't have to wait until you're 18 because you're so close in the cycle that you can go ahead and register to vote, because you have to register to vote at least 25 days before you can vote in an election.
Okay, 25 days before you can vote in the election.
Right.
That means you're 17. You have to be 18 25 days before. Is that what you said?
You have to be coming up on your 18th birthday.
Coming up on your 18th birthday.
Right.
That you can be a part of the powerful selection of voting. Okay.
Right.
Now, what else? What about if you're not currently in state or federal prison or on parole for the conviction of a felony? Okay,
well, let's kind of dive into that, because a lot of people have confusion about that.
Okay.
If you are, let's just use this as an example. If you are an inmate that hasn't went to trial, and you're in Mecklenburg County Jail, and you're charged with either a misdemeanor or a felony, you can still vote even though you're incarcerated because you have not been convicted.
Wow! Did y'all hear that?
And a lot of people don't understand that. Conversely, when you are convicted of a felony and you get out of your active time, or you get out of your probation or your parole, and you satisfied every condition, as far as fines, court costs, or anything like that. Once your period is over, you can go and re-register. You have to re-register. But your citizenships or your rights are automatically restored.
Wow. Okay.
In North Carolina. In other states, it's a little different.
Why are we're just so.
But we're a little better with restoring felony voting rights than some other states in the South. So.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, but we have so many little small nuances that it's so it just bothers me, that we have to jump through hoops and red tape, and you know what I'm saying? We just consistently jumping over a hoop to just try to maintain some type of civil, relationship with life, and that bothers me. But what I did hear is that if you are not on parole or on probation,
you have to get off of all of that.
You have to be off of all of the papers. And then once you have signed that last little document or you've paid that last fine and you are cleared off of any type of paper, you have the right to have your voting
rights restored.
But
you have to go to your local board of election.
Okay.
And you have to re-register.
Okay, y'all see that?
You have to re-register, and then you will be put back onto the voting rolls. But as I said, that's like a disconnect. I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of fellas who were former felons, and they've done everything that they needed to do, but they were under the impression that they were barred out of voting for the rest of their lives, but they didn't really understand how that worked.
Okay.
So that's a great way to we really have to educate that population. So that's a powerful voting block.
So again, this is what we're getting ready to actually do. This powerful voting block, there is so many of them that we're going to put you all into your own category. So guess what? That voting block, we want to know if you have been previously incarcerated and you want to know more about politics, you want to understand how to get your rights granted back to you or given back to you. We want to hear from you. So you make sure you can inbox me, you can info me, and whatever, it's info@charlene-henderson.com, and we're getting ready to get you back where you belong. Do not let them think that they can get away with this. Those who are previously incarcerated, those who are not on papers, you have not had any. Well, no, you've had any, but if you have no paperwork done, you done paid all your restitutions and all that good stuff, we want to be able to talk to you and to help you understand your rights. It is important. If you don't get to it in 2020, guaranteed 2021, we need you. That block of voters is important. We need to stand up when they say Black Lives Matter, Black women matter, all of that. That's standing up for powerful people, those who are previously incarcerated, those who are justice involved. We want to be able to help you, assist you, because you have a powerful voice right now.
Absolutely.
Period. So Board of Election, all right, www.mec.org. That's www.meckboe.org. Okay? This is something that can help you. This is some valuable information in this pamphlet that talks to you about everybody. Mm-hmm. What district, who's running. Doesn't tell you who to vote for, but it gives you everybody's name. You see this? It gives you everybody's name that has registered themselves to run for an office. Is that right? Am I right?
That's exactly right.
Okay, I don't want to take over. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Well, this is your show. You can't take over this.
I just want to make sure that we get as much information as possible. Please, www.mecboe.org. Those who are previously incarcerated. I have to continuously say this. Spread the word. They have the right to vote. Some of them do not know it, but they have the right to vote. All right. So now, what else we got over here? Have y'all seen this? Y'all got this in the mail? Boy, they using her like water running. Boy, that's Michelle Obama. That's our POTUS right there. So I received this in the mail. And there's a lot of information going around that we need to make sure we decipher.
Right. Okay.
So let's talk about absentee ballots. Let's talk about the voter registration forms. All of this stuff, man, I'm telling you, it's so much, but we're breaking it down as much as we can. So what comes first, Mr. Rodney? What comes first?
Well, first of all, you have to be sure that you are properly registered.
Okay.
Okay. And once that happens, then you can go to the Board of Elections, local Board of Elections, or they will send you a form giving you an opportunity to request an absentee ballot.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Right.
Before you can do any of this, let's spread it out on this table.
You got to be registered.
You have to be registered to vote.
Right.
Now, what is it going to take for someone who don't know how do you get registered? What is registration?
Well, registration. Oh, come on, Cheryl.
What is registration?
Well, registration. Registering to vote is, like I said, you have to be somewhere. You have to be approaching your 18th birthday.
You have to be a citizen first.
Right.
You got to be.
There you go. Absolutely.
Thank you.
It's very important. You have to be a citizen, whether you were a natural born citizen or you've been a naturalized citizen.
Okay.
You know, because once you become a naturalized citizen, you can partake in all the rights that an American natural born citizen can partake in. And so that's very important. Thank you. See, I need to be reminded as well. and so you first step is to vote. Is to register to vote.
First step
is to register.
To register to vote. So you know that you're 17, getting ready to be 18.
Or 18 and past.
And 18 and past. And you are a United States American citizen.
Right.
Or a naturalized citizen.
Right.
So once we got that out the way, then you can say, okay, well, let me go to the Board of Elections. Now in Charlotte, we have our home office, which is the Board of Elections office, which is on Kenilworth.
Right.
That is not on here, but I know that it's on Kenilworth Avenue, right?
Yes.
Kenilworth Drive, Avenue Road, one of them. Kenilworth, look it up, Board of Elections, and it'll give you the address. Once you do that,
yes, ma'am.
then you're at the Board of Election, right? I don't know none of these people. All I know is that Mr. Rodney told me to come into this office. I have never registered. What do I do?
Right. Well, again, first you register. Then they'll process that. Okay. Then they'll send you in a couple of weeks later.
Is that what this is? It's a voter registration application?
That's a voter registration application. Absolutely.
Okay. So the Board of Election is going to give me a voter registration application. Y'all see that? An application to fill out.
Right.
And it's really simple. It just says your name, your address, your date of birth. You know, a phone number is optional. An ID number. And then a signature. And what else? That's pretty much it. Right. So now, do you not know this? Sometimes your voter registration card acts as a credential for an ID to a degree.
Yeah.
This is important, especially if you out here in the United States of America. All right. So you fill this out. You hand this back in to the voter registration person and say, here you go. They'll take it. They'll look over it. You know, they'll make sure everything is filled out correctly. It was only about 5 lines. And look for, in the mail, your voter registration card. I mean, that is so cool, right?
Yeah, cool and easy.
And easy, right?
Easy.
Okay, and after that, right? What else we got?
And so now, let me say about the voter registration card. What the voter registration card will show you, it will show you a couple of things. It'll show you what districts that you are in, for the school board, city council, county commission, Senate, House, or congressional district. Yeah, you should have it.
Oh.
You don't have your voter registration card?
Oh. I have no, that's my state, that's my registration. That's my car registration.
Okay.
Oh man, but still, I have insurance.
Well, that's good.
I brought the wrong one.
That's all right.
You have yours?
Let me see if I can.
Okay. It's important.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important that you keep it on you, Charlene.
Yes, it is. I thought I had it in
So,
here.
I don't want to beat you up about it.
No, don't do that because I do
I
have
don't
it.
have it. Well, I have it somewhere.
So we have it somewhere. It's
Yeah,
somewhere. But just like you carry, let's see, just like you carry this, your ID, your ID, your driver's license, you can carry your voter registration card as well.
Right.
Okay, it is important. That's an important document because people try to shut you down. Just like I carry my certificate. I mean my cosmetic arts certified teacher's license as well. Yeah, you got to carry these little small things. The only thing I do not recommend you carrying is your Social Security card. Okay, you don't want to carry that. You want to kind of like keep that in a safe place, you know, so that
just remember the number.
Remember the number, right?
But yeah, so that voter registration card will show you what precinct that you're supposed to be registered to vote in.
Okay.
And it'll show you all the districts that you fall under, where your address is or where that precinct is.
That's right.
So very good information.
Yeah. So if you have an address that is on your voter registration card, that address is going to help you know your city council. It's going to help you understand who's your county commission. It's going to help you understand your state representatives, right? It's going to help you know who your board of election, is it board of elections? Board of education, right, who's representing you where you live. So whatever your school district is, there's a board of education representative for that school district as well. So if you have issues with anything that's involving your children as far as school, if you have any issues with, let's say, bumps in the road, you know what some things, the speed bumps in the road, and you need people to slow down. Well, guess what? You have to talk to your city about that, right? Because that's a city road, right? Now, county is your park and rec. Talk to me about who's the county.
County is your park and rec, your health and human services.
Health and human services.
Right.
And what does that entail?
Well, you're the board of health or the health of the Mecklenburg County Health Department.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, your parks and recreations. There are some now in the county. They handle some issues of housing supportive services.
Okay.
For chronic homeless people.
Okay.
And so
you said that's the county.
That's the county.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you look at it, if you just look at it this way, you just think of it this way: the county handles human services, the city handles hard or what we call hard services, like streets, like sanitation, like public safety.
Public safety.
Yeah, public safety and those things. And the sheriff, even though he's a county official, but he's autonomous from the county, from the county, even though the county handles his budget.
Mm-hmm.
He's basically the top law enforcement official in the county because he's elected as opposed to the police chief who's appointed or
mm-hmm.
hired.
Yeah, hired.
Right, so the voters hire the sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah.
The voters hire the sheriff, the city appoints.
The city manager, appoints the police chief.
The police chief.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew. Boy,
it's a lot.
It's a lot. But once you understand the basics, it's important that you dive deep into it because it's going to be imperative for your children. If you children, the grandparents who've died and paved the way, it's important for them. So it's a lot to it. Now, let's talk about the 3 branches of government.
Okay.
You remember we were back in school. We weren't paying attention to what to world history and social studies. It's a few of y'all that read a lot, but overall, we didn't really pay attention to this. It was like water going over our head, So let's talk a little bit about, because it's important now. We're older. Anybody who's 30 and older, we need to really understand what's going on. What are the three branches of government? I bet y'all can't name them. What are they?
Well, we have.
Let's wait.
Oh, you got comments?
Can you name? Can you name the three branches of government without Googling it? Without being let Siri talk for you.
I'm sure.
Go ahead.
You know what? I'm sure they can at this point because it's been in the news so much, and you talked about separation of powers, especially with the 45 administration.
Mm-hmm.
So you have three core branches of government. You have the executive. Which I wouldn't want to use. Let's look at it from a state perspective.
Okay.
The executive branch is the governor and his cabinet members, the governor, the lieutenant governor, all of those secretaries that he appoints. They are the executive branch of the government of the state of North Carolina.
So the executive branch, the executive part of the government, are the ones who execute the laws.
Right. Then you have the legislature.
You have the legislation.
Right. Which you have two houses. You have the state senate.
State senate.
Which is for some reason called the upper house. I've had debates with some of my former colleagues about that. And then you have the state house.
Right. And
so, as I said before, it comprises of a total number of 170 members, 120 in the House, 50 over here in the Senate. Mm-hmm. And so what they're responsible for is they're actually creating and making the laws that the executive branch enforces.
Okay. All right. Now you hear that.
So that's the role of the legislature.
All right.
Okay, now you want to talk about your judicial branch or your judiciary.
Judiciary.
There you go. Thank you.
All right now.
Your judiciary, which is comprised of your court system.
Now listen, hold it right there. You just heard these are the three branches of government. This one right here, the judicial branch of government, is where he just said is the court system.
Right. They
are the ones to do what? They kind of determine the law, right?
No, they can't determine it. They interpret.
Interpret. Oh, I'm sorry.
They interpret what the legislature puts in statutes.
Okay.
So they take what the legislature puts in statute, and they look at it from a legal lens and see if that statute is constitutional by the Constitution of the United States and in North Carolina. So they interpret the statutes. They can't make law because that's the function of the legislature. Mm-hmm. And they can't execute it because that's the function of the executive branch. Uh-huh. But they can interpret and give their opinions.
All right.
And then per their opinions, the law can either be modified, changed, or stay the same.
So how do someone who is a first-time voter understand the process of this? Like I don't understand what you just said here. What did you just say?
What I just said?
Yeah, I mean, so what affects us?
Right. What affects you? Let's just put it this way. What affects you?
All of it affects us.
All of it affects you, but if you would break it down into greater impact, it would be the legislature.
Y'all listening? Yeah. Do you hear us? Legislative.
Right.
A legislature.
Right, because the legislator or the legislative process
creates. Which is more of our local areas? Or
it's state, local. And see, another thing that people don't realize, Charlene, is that in North Carolina, the General Assembly is the final say in the state as far as legislative action. The counties and the cities we're under what we'll call a Dillon state in North Carolina, which means that there is no home rule. I'll give you a prime example. You remember about 4 or 5 years ago, they had this bathroom ordinance. It was a big thing in the news. HB2, HB2, and they called it the bathroom bill. Very, very, very controversial bill. And the city of Charlotte, city council made an ordinance, but the legislature overturned it, or they modified it, or they said it was unconstitutional because they had, because the city cannot make laws, they can make ordinance, but the legislator felt that they could go and override the ordinance. So in the state of North Carolina, the legislature, the House and the Senate, is the most powerful governing body in North Carolina.
All right, y'all heard that. The House and the Senate is the most powerful governing body in North Carolina.
Because
all right?
of the way it's structured.
So again, it goes back to understanding and knowing who you want to vote for that has your agenda at hand, who you feel like can represent who you are, as well as your own agenda. Y'all see this. It is important that you find out, look at these individuals, read up on them, and then begin to ask questions and kind of like decipher. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, you have to pick and see which one fits this mold and see which one fits the overall who's going to help us in our communities. And another question. I know that it's been said that a lot of the politicians are servant leaders. You know, some like to be called servant leaders and some like to be called politicians. But why is it so hard for, anybody who is serving the community, who's come to the communities to get the vote? Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to it, they're not really truly representing what they came to the community to do. And I say that because we're looking for specifics now. Black people have been deprived for so long, especially Black women. Black women are still treated like second-class citizens, and I will fight until I die for Black women and having the rights to be treated as equals. All right? But for as Black agendas, why is it taboo for a lot of the politicians to talk about helping those in that particular entity?
Well, first of all, we as a Black or African American community, however we want to say it, we need to really define and codify, for the most part, what we feel, what our Black agenda is. Okay. So it's like trying to go to Alaska without a map if you don't know where you're going in the first place.
That's right. Okay.
And so we really need, if we just break it down to that little module, we need to come together as a Black community. We need to have hard conversations. And then once we come up with a roadmap to what we want to see and hold our African American, our Caucasian elected officials to, that pertains to our agenda, our wants, our needs, then that's how you hold them accountable. And you can grade them or judge them on how they have or have not supported that particular agenda. Because in this community, we need to codify and define what our African American agenda will be, because we haven't done that for the most part.
Okay, how does that look? What does that look like? African American people, brown people, how do we define
the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, well, and let me say this. We say African American and brown people. I'm going to take a quick second here.
Yeah.
The Hispanic Latino community, even though it's a emerging minority here, is much different than the African American community. And I'll tell you, has a sense of brotherhood because of their uniqueness. Okay. You have some that are Dominican, some that are Puerto Rican, some that are Mexican, Ecuadorian, and they have those particular ethnic traditions, and they have that kind of network with one another. See, African Americans in this country, because of slavery and other conditions, we've been a fractured and unattached people. And so we're fractured to the point where our we need a common agenda, but we're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
We're all over
That's
the place.
true.
We still have issues in our community that are not pertinent in other communities of color, as we call them. And so there's some things that we have to work on specifically in our little group before we can bring other people in, you know, that they have their own particular agenda or motivation to do whatever they do.
Right.
And so, you know, I know that I'm for diversity. I understand that. But from that particular point of view,
Mm-hmm.
we really need to have an internal conversation with our African American community if we truly want to get an African American agenda in place and start moving forward.
What does that look like? Being able to sit down and have a conversation with African American individuals. Like there are so many different organizations and leaders, community leaders, in the state of North Carolina
Mm-hmm.
that feel like they should be the representation of a leader.
Right.
Now, do you represent? Do you recommend those leaders coming together to get on one accord so that they can get their followers or their constituents?
Yeah. Well, and you know, that's tricky in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have someone head an organization, but and what I would define as a leader, some of them are lacking. And I'm not criticizing any one person or another,
Mm-hmm.
but we really need to have a grassroots, homegrown uplift from our people, our voices that we trust as leaders of organizations, and from those that are out there that we haven't heard from.
Right.
And so, but there has to be some type of structure or catalyst
Mm-hmm.
to bring this about or to convene it or have the conversation started. But that's the challenge.
Yeah, that's a big challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
We have went through so much information today, and I know a lot of it may feel overwhelming because for me, when I first dove into this information and being a political candidate,
Mm-hmm.
it was overwhelming. But the passion that I have, the love that I have for my community and the people that surrounded me, I knew I had to be a voice for the voiceless. And I'm consistently being a voice for the voiceless. I want to be able to help educate the minds of those who may not have even thought about it this way or that way. The only thing that I can do, we can do as a whole, is put the information in front of you, give you information that's going to re-educate your mind, to start getting your endorphins. What do you call those things in the head?
Mm-hmm.
Getting it to click so that, you know, you can get a fresh perspective of what all of this means. So it is my intention to bring individuals like Mr. Rodney Moore, who's a previous representative for the state, in to talk about these things. And very knowledgeable. And I recommend you reaching out to him if you have more questions. You see he's knowledgeable in every aspect from A to Z. And this is why I brought you in, because you're
Well, I appreciate it.
I believe in what you're saying.
But you know, Charlene, another thing about my journey is that, you know, of course, I'm very proud and privileged that I had the opportunity to serve in the House.
Yes.
Four
terms.
4 terms, that's right. But before that, I've been gleaning out in the community. I was a lifelong member of the NAACP, lifelong member of the National Action Network. I don't know how all that happened. But I've been consistent. I've been a consistent advocate about affordable housing and ending homelessness. I served on the Charlotte Housing Authority Board for about 6 years. And so those things. And so what I say all that to say is that there are opportunities, vast opportunities out there for people who really have a passion to make a difference in their community. you know, the public office thing was something I really fell in by accident. You know.
Can you give us a little short history on that?
Okay, well, what I wanted to do, I always wanted to serve on Charlotte City Council. And there was, in 2010, there was a race that came to mind, to mention to me, people that encouraged me to run for State House. Now, there was a very controversial incumbent at that time who was it was in the seat. And so I said, okay, well, I'll try this because it's very rare that you beat an incumbent. I'll try this and then I'll get my name out there, get my name ID up. Then I'll be ready to run for city council in the next cycle. But, you know, ancestors and God had a different fate for me.
Okay.
And, you know, I beat the young man in the primary. And, you know, so we just beat up our opponent in the general. And then we served, you know, 8 years. And we tried to put some good policies in place.
Which you did.
Tried. Good progressive policy.
Good progressive policy.
And, you know, moderate progressive, you know, so you know.
You did something.
You know, I'm originally from southeastern North Carolina. You know, grew up in the Wilmington area, and so you know, I'm sort of a centrist. I know it's a bad word to use nowadays in politics, especially being a Democrat. A centrist, but you know, I've always been true to who I am.
Okay.
You know, and I've never disqualified a person or a colleague because they might have a different ideology or they might come from a different party, because I believe that even though you disagree, and there are areas where you can come together. I don't believe that just because you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat that we can never agree on anything.
That's right.
Through conversation and through building relationships, there's always something that we can come together and work on. And that's when we do that, that makes it better for the people of North Carolina, whether they're Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated, or anything else that they want to define themselves to be.
I love it. Thank you so much. Now, can you talk to the people about November the 3rd? Just talk to them, because it's important that they consistently get it bammed in their heads.
Right. Well, November the 3rd, we face a very, very stark contrast in the direction of our country. We face, I don't want to talk to you right now, excuse me. You got me on live. So we face a very stark mindset of the direction of this country. We can either choose to continue to protect and grow our democracy, or we can fall and slip into autocracy. And what autocracy means is that you have a one person or one section rule, or basically a dictatorship. And so over the last 3 years, we've seen where our democracy can be compromised by one person or a group of people who are supporting that person. And so it's very important to go out and vote your values, as I said before. Vote your values so that only you can determine what direction this country is going to go in. As for me, I'm a strong believer in a republic, which means a representative government for the people, of the people, and by the people. That's what I strongly believe. And right now, that's being chipped away at and being compromised by this administration and this person that we presently have at 1600. And so we need to do a couple of things. Localize it in North Carolina. We need to make sure that we pick the right president with the temper and the empathy for his fellow Americans. We need to make sure, and I'm going to get personal, we need to make sure that we elect another U.S. Senator from the state of North Carolina. We need to make sure that we change the leadership in the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate that are going to be more people-centric, people-centered. And we also have to make sure that we reelect Governor Cooper. That's who I'm voting for. Or I voted for. I've already voted. And we want to make history by electing the first African-American lieutenant governor, female lieutenant governor of the state of North Carolina, my former colleague and good friend, Miss Yvonne Lewis Holly. And so that's my commentary to you about this November 3rd election, and how critical it is to get out and have your voices heard. And even though you may not, your person in the primary or your particular person that lines up with your ideals may not be on the ballot, the very soul and survival of this democracy is on the ballot in 2020. And so I ask you to get out, energize yourself, vote early, and then go out and work the polls like you never worked them before.
Because we need you. I mean, period, point blank, drop the mic, period. This November right here is important.
Yeah.
No, please get out, vote, drag everybody out. If you need us to come pick you up and take you to the polls, we will do that. We will be having souls to the polls again. So please, by all means, make sure you utilize your voice. Make sure you use that stroke of the pen or that stroke of the pushing that button to vote for those who you feel have your best agenda at heart. It is important. It's imperative that you remember that. Holding people accountable is where it's at and is what we're going to be doing. And Mr. Rodney Moore, any final words before we begin wrapping up?
Well, I think I've kind of given all I can give. But let me just reemphasize the point, is that people always say, well, this is the most important election of our lifetime. And that might be true in some aspects, but in this particular election, like I said, in this particular election, at this particular moment in history, it is clearly going to be the difference of what type of America that we want to live in for the next 10, 20 years. And so I compel you again, vigorously, go out and vote, and let's turn this country around. Let's truly make America great again. Truly. It's not just a slogan, it's a mission. And we know how we can make America great again, because it was nothing wrong with America until the slogan came in 2016 and we fell for it. And so now let's change course and go back to what we know is a fair and decent society for all human beings in America. So thank you.
Stand up, Black women, Black men, Black lives, all lives matter. Black lives matter. No, it's all lives matter when Black lives matter. That's Black right. Women, Black men, stand up for each other, love on our babies. It's important that we remember all of those who have lost their lives, especially in 2020. It has been so devastating. Let's keep the faith that our democracy will change. It will be like you said, well, keep America great or make America great again. Let's just get together and be the union that we're supposed to be. If we join together, we're a force to reckon with. But divided, we will fall. So we're asking everybody to get out and be a part of the process, getting out the vote. All right, Mr. Rodney Moore, I thank you so much. And if you would like to be a part of Charlene Community Conversation, you already know, hit me on info@charlene-henderson.com. Again, that's info@charlene-henderson.com, or check out my website, which is charlenehenderson.com. And you can get all the information of who I am, what I represent, because I represent, period, my city. I rep my city. I'm born and raised right here. So it's important that we continuously push each other, have each other's back. And until the next time, people, I'm telling you, get out the vote. Please make it happen, okay? All right, so